All right, good morning and welcome back to my Area Intelligence 101 series. My name is Mike Shelby. If you have not watched part one, then I encourage you to do that. Check out the link in the description below, watch part one, and then you can jump back over here to part two. In the last video, I talked about my reasoning to do an area study, and understanding the context, the proper context is critical. Imagine you're setting out on a backpacking trip, some task that you want to accomplish, and your backpacking trip is back into the mountains somewhere. Well, you want a map of the area. You want to know where you're starting and where you're going. You want to know the terrain along the way. You want some idea of how long this is going to last, because you're going to have to pack for this trip or your mission. You're going to have to pack for your mission. And so you need to understand the context of what you're getting yourself into. And so understanding the context of your backpacking trip is critical. In the same way, understanding the context of your area study is also critical, and that's why I start out with that in the very first video in this Area Intelligence 101 video, series. Now, we're going to start with part two. And this video presentation, this entire series, is based on my book, The Area Intelligence Handbook. If you don't already have a copy, then navigate your way over to grayzonestore.com, or just click the link in the description and pick up a copy. Now, the number one reason why you want an area study is because it helps you to identify problems before they become problems. People ask me every week, Mike, what do you think I should be preparing for? What do you think we should be preparing for? Well, in short, do your area study, because once you do your area study, you're going to know exactly what you should be preparing for. And in that way, your area study really is a blueprint for action. It's not just a collection of information. That is partially what it is, but really, once you do your area study, you're going to understand your local threats, hazards, vulnerabilities, limitations. Your future mission is going to be much clearer for you. You're going to know what needs to be done. And the area study is going to outline all of that for you. Remember, intelligence drives operations. It's really hard to run operations without intelligence. And so, this is one thing we used to say in the Army: intelligence drives the fight. Intelligence drives operations. I have people tell me, and sometimes I see this on social media, what they're preparing to do in some SHTF scenario, what security operations they're going to undertake to protect their neighborhood in your SHTF Mad Max scenario. And those plans, or maybe in some cases they're fantasies, but at least those fantasies, they still need intelligence. Any kind of operations needs intelligence. And that's because it's impossible to run operations without it. So intelligence is the basis for decision making. It informs us of the ground truth. And if we are doing our jobs in intelligence, then it can give us insight into future conditions. So what should you be putting in your area study? Well, you should do a base area study. Start off with a basic one that contains all the basic information for your area. You should identify those tasks or missions that you will want to accomplish in the future. For instance, if you have a particular threat or a particular hazard, such as maybe the area floods a lot. Well, maybe your mission is going to be, we're going to have to get out in floodwaters. And so maybe you need swift water rescue training. You need to know how to run a boat. You got to have life jackets and, all these things for flood operations. And so all that stuff you're going to discover all those things in your area study. So identify those tasks and likely missions that you're going to have to accomplish in the future, and then put the appropriate information in your area study to drive those missions. So we got a base area study, and then we got a mission specific area study. The area study is the starting point for all offensive, defensive, shaping, stability, support, or sustainment operations during an emergency. And you can read more about all these operations, all the ops stuff in Field Manual 3-0. There are a lot. That's just kind of the starting point there. But intelligence drives all operations. So you really can't put the cart before the horse. You need intelligence, and we're just getting started. The area study really is kind of the first step here for area intelligence. By the way, if you like what you're learning in these videos and you want to get access to my future videos, then be sure to hit the like and subscribe button below this video. Now, realistically, let's look at some appropriate missions here, at least appropriate for this channel. First is building a local preparedness network, starting or joining a neighborhood watch, developing a local intelligence network or an information sharing network. All those things are missions you should be driving right now. And having an area study is going to make all these things a lot easier for you right now and also in the future, especially the networking things. They're going to pay dividends well into the future. Now, people ask me about bugging in or bugging out, and that really depends on your local situation. But regardless of your decision, you're going to want an area study to support that mission. And in most cases, an area study is going to tell you whether you should be bugging in or bugging out anyway. So there's really no avoiding it. Just do your area study. Other missions could be disaster aid and humanitarian relief, establishing local security. Those are all realistic missions that you should be planning for because natural disasters are by far the most common catastrophic threat there is. And there are a lot of reasons why you should be preparing for these missions, specifically disaster relief and local security, because they are the building blocks for follow-on missions, and I'll discuss what those are in future videos. So in any case, having a completed area study is going to help you drive these operations, and not having an area study is going to degrade your operational effectiveness and could lead to mission failure. It's almost like the area study is the basis for all operational preparedness and security planning. Now, before we move on, let's look at one more piece of critical information. Many of you veterans, and I would hope all of you veterans, and many of you non-veterans, are probably familiar with METTC. And I'm not going to drill down into this very deep, but other than to say that intelligence feeds your METTC analysis. Specifically, we are talking about mission, which is provided by your command. That's an ops thing. The E in METTC stands for enemy, or for us, that may be threats and hazards. Intelligence informs that. There is no person in the Army. There's no other unit or anything, no section, no cell, nowhere else in the Army can provide you the enemy threat picture or the threats and hazards picture other than the intelligence section. That is the primary job for an intelligence analyst. Also, the first T in METTC stands for terrain and weather. That's also a function of intelligence. And then you go through troops and time. And then finally, civil considerations. That is the third critical factor here, or third METTC factor that intelligence informs. Understanding what the concerns of the local civil populace, local politics, all these civil considerations at the local level, wherever your operations are going to be. So intelligence informs about half of this METTC, and it kind of goes back to this basic saying that intelligence drives the fight. You really cannot have operational effectiveness without intelligence, which is also to say, if you have bad intelligence, your operational effectiveness is going to suffer. And we just see this repeating all throughout military history, time and time again. Also, I would consider this. Even if you don't have intelligence, if you have an operational capability, but you don't have any intelligence personnel, then the first task of your ops guys is going to be to gather information. So do yourself a favor and get your area study done now so that you can run effective operations when the time comes. Remember that intelligence can be front-loaded before an emergency, but operations can't be front-loaded. And so the time to do intelligence is now. Hopefully this short video has given you a little bit better picture. When I say do an area study, I hope you can now understand, hey, I have to do this area study because I want to do A, B, C, or D. I want to accomplish these tasks or accomplish these missions at the local level. And an area study is absolutely the very first start of that. So I will be back next week. I'm just going to start this new thing. These videos are going to come out on Tuesday. We'll call it Tac Intel Tuesday. And each week I'm just going to break down a different piece of the intelligence puzzle for preparedness and security. So follow along. If you like this short video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to this channel. If you haven't already, go to areaintelligence.com, because if I post articles, I'll send those out via email as well. And then also head over to grayzonestore.com and pick up your copy of the Area Intelligence Handbook. I'll be back on Tuesday for another Tac Intel Tuesday. Until then, be well and stay out front.